Kate Tolo. Is that her name? Tolo?
Kate Tolo.
Kate, will you come on out? Kate is a 27-year-old former fashion strategist and is Bryan's chief marketing officer. Mm-hmm. But she's also the first woman to ever sign up and follow the Blueprint way of living. And Kate is here. I remember hearing about the Blueprint protocol last time we had this conversation. And one of the things that stood out to me is the amount of sacrifice that goes into living in line with it. Mm-hmm. Things like getting up at a certain time and then going to sleep at a certain time and things that you eat. Are you following all of that?
Yes, I'm definitely not as extensive as Bryan is because I've just started the protocol, but that was a big decision factor for both of us when we're considering this. One is it is incredibly laborious on our team to bring up another person, but not only that, it means completely changing my lifestyle. And so when we were contemplating doing this decision, I really gave it a lot of serious thought because I know that the public are going to follow along. You know, it's a really big decision for my life. It's a big decision for our team and for the resources that get put behind it. And so early on, we decided that I was going to do a 30-day trial before we made any of this public to make sure that, am I capable? Am I willing? Is this something that I actually want to take on? And so, yeah, it meant completely redefining what my life and lifestyle is.
And where are we at now with that 30-day trial?
Yes. So I've done my 30-day trial and I'm on about day 90 of Blueprint. So I successfully did my first 30 days, which was, really, really difficult.
And you're day 90 now?
Yes.
How long are you going to do it for?
That's the thing. It's an algorithm. So that was definitely something I was conscious of. This is maybe one of the last decisions I really made because I was deciding to walk into the unknown. Like I didn't know exactly how many pills I'd be taking, what my protocol would be, how many blood draws would I be going into. It was really, am I okay revoking my conscious mind from making this decision making and stepping into the unknown?
So what does your life look like now on a day-to-day basis?
So this was establishing, the first 30 days was really just the trial. And so we're still in the process of figuring out, we're still in the process of personalizing essentially to my data. But what I do is I try and get 100% sleep every single night. I do perfect nutrition. So I eat the same thing as Bryan every single day. So it's 1,700 calories, perfectly, mapped out. And then I take over 60 supplements every single day. And I aim to get a certain amount of cardio and strength training and exercise in every week.
And how's it been going?
It was really difficult. It was much more difficult than I expected it to be.
Why?
The process of doing Blueprint is really about measurement, intervention, and measurement again. So when we did my baseline measurements, there were a couple things that became apparent. One is that people observe me from the outside, and this is how I observe myself as well, so it's not common to other people, but that if things look okay from the outside, things must be okay on the inside too. And so I had a lot of people like saying to me, oh, you surely must be healthy because, you look healthy, so you must be fine. My baseline fitness testing, for example, put me on like an average of like age 60 or age 70, just based on my flexibility, my strength, my, cardiovascular health, all those kinds of things. And then my blood work, for example, a few things came back off, which is to be expected, like my vitamin D and my zinc, which is easy to fix. But then my oxidized LDL came back high, which is extremely concerning because I'm only 27 years old. And these are the kinds of flags that you see early on that can lead to things like stroke or, a buildup in your arteries that can lead to really serious health consequences. So there were a couple of things in those like baseline tests, for example, that had a red flag. Then throughout the process, I would say that it's because all of a sudden you're given this huge task of looking after yourself to perfection, you come face to face with the things that are in the way of your of living a better life. So your self-destructive tendencies. And so for me, like day one, I had like 3 different existential crisis like moments, where my whole life crumbled down because you come face to face with things that are in your way that you had never had to deal with before.
Like what?
So, Bryan talks about evening Bryan, the Bryan that, overate between 5 and 7 p.m. or 10 p.m. Every night. For me, it was priority Kate. I didn't realize before I did Blueprint that my whole life has been structured around helping other people and never focusing on myself. It was like I was completely blind to the fact that any opportunity I get, I would deflect from myself and be like, how are you doing? What can I do for you? Because I realized that I didn't have a relationship with self where if other people couldn't see it, I just neglected it. So in like little things, it meant that I would schedule meetings back to back and I wouldn't make time to, use the restroom or eat or have proper sleep. And then 10 p.m. would roll around and I'd finish work and the only thing that was left open was McDonald's. And so that's what I would eat for dinner. Or, if I committed to hang out with them on a weekend, there was no way I was going to, say that I can't do that anymore just to get enough sleep because, ultimately I cared more about the other people's perceptions than my own actual well-being.
People pleaser.
Yes. People pleaser, big time.
And to do Blueprint, it sounds like it's the antithesis of people pleasing.
Yeah, I would say so. And it's kind of like that, Bryan references this, but the airplane example where you want to put your own mask on before you can help others. So, in this process, I've slowly learned that I am functioning better and I can actually do more of that people pleasing in a weird way anyway by looking after myself first.
What have been although it's just been 90 days, what have you noticed changes? So
as far as actual like results and data, it was very straightforward. Everything improved pretty much across the board. So my restorative sleep increased by 19% in 30 days. My flexibility improved, my strength improved, like my leg press one rep max went from 220 pounds to 360 pounds in 30 days. I did VO2 max testing, so my body's ability to use oxygen. When I first did it at the start of the 30 days, I was put at the 51st percentile. So if you look at like an age graph, you'd be able to predict exactly what age I am. That was spot on average. And then after 30 days, I had increased into the top 7% of fitness for my age and gender, which is huge for me because I'm someone who has never exercised a day in my life before this. I'd never gone on runs. I hated the gym. I'd never been trained in the gym. It was just something that was like the antithesis of anti-Kate, So yeah, huge changes on my end. And my blood work improved. We're still waiting on my oxidized LDL to come back, but generally everything looks really good.
What's your take on that and things that have improved and the changes you've seen in her?
I think the most interesting and entertaining was the existential crises, where they became so frequent. I would send her messages just like in a joking fashion, like, "Hey, like, hope your existential crisis is going well today. How can I help?" But she really was. I applaud her because she jumped in with both feet, and she was willing to share the entirety of her internal experience. So she didn't try to camouflage any of her pain. She didn't try to be tougher than she was. She was just open and transparent about the entire process. And I think that people around us, the entire team and those observing, drew a lot of inspiration because she was open about everything, about what she was struggling with internally. And she was willing to step into the problem. Like she didn't miss a single day. And that's hard. Like there's a lot of motivation to quit or to take a day off. And so I am really pleased that she gave it a go and she prevailed. It would have been very easy for her to quit.
Hey, you're 27.
Yes.
Sacrifice.
Yeah.
People think of your 20s sacrifice. They think going out, partying. Did you do that stuff before? Did you like date, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. No, it definitely was a big consideration for me. And like the other thing to add is Blueprint, especially at the level we're trying to do this at, is a full-time endeavor. And so you have to fit this into your existing lifestyle. And so it's really difficult. Even things like, during that 30-day trial, we traveled for work. And I remember we got back one day and it was like 6 p.m. or something like that. And everyone was like zonked after being on the road for 3 days or something like that. And I was like, I got to go exercise now, guys. And everyone was like, what? But that's the thing. Like, my data, it demanded it. My body demanded it. And so I was going to do it. It wasn't about, what I wanted in that moment or not. So it is a very intense thing to commit to. As far as like the socializing and all that kind of stuff, yeah, I was someone who, would stay up. I would stay up working a lot of the time. Like I'm a grind culture child. Like I really did throw myself into it. So I would say that's probably the thing that changed the most. On the socializing thing, like my friends have been so accommodating. We'd go out for brunch still and I would bring my Blueprint tin and just sit at the table while, other people are having their maybe their mimosas with orange juice in it. But yeah, I think there have been easy ways to make it fit into my life, and the people around me have been really accommodating, which is lovely.
What's been the biggest and the hardest sacrifice? The thing that you maybe on the difficult days you miss a little bit.
It's just so sad, but the first thing that comes to my mind is oat milk lattes. Like, I'm such a typical, young person now. But yeah, there's like little, you realize you come face to face with the fact that a lot of life's small joys are baked into the things that you do on a routine basis. And so it took me a while to remap those things. But
Did you drink before?
No, I mean, I was like a normal person. Yeah. So drinks on the weekend with friends.
When you feel a little bit guilty if you quit doing this, after everything the team have invested in you, Bryan's faith in you, does that not feel like a bit of a pressure?
Yes, it does. However, this was also, you can't let those things drive you when you're on Blueprint. So for example, halfway through my 30-day period, I started to really not feel great. And I would watch my heart rate. As you get better exercise, your fitness improves, it's harder to get your heart rate up. And I was going against this metric of, I need to get my heart rate over 173 beats per minute to hit this vigorous heart rate zone to get my markers up. And I was pushing myself. I was, I documented all this for our YouTube channel and whatnot, but I was at this point where I was crying on the weekend and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I think I have to give up because I just couldn't get my heart rate up. And it took me a second to realize that Priority Kate had snuck in again, but in this really subtle, backdoor kind of way where I was holding myself to this expectation of I needed to do these very intense things so I could prove to the public that I can do this, that I'm going to be, this Blueprint XX. When in reality, the Blueprint way is actually stop, look at the data. And if I had done that, I really would have seen that my HRV was down, my recovery was down, like my body was asking for a break, but my conscious mind was stepping in and saying, you need to prioritize the viewpoint of others and how they're going to think of you and make sure you just hit these goals regardless of what the data says. So I think that to answer your question, if I'm people pleasing in that way, I just get in my own way. But if you stop and look at the data, that's where actually the insight comes from.
Bryan, why did you want Kate to do this? Did you want her to do it? And if so, why?
We talked about this extensively, and I told Kate that there was no pressure, no expectation, that it was entirely her decision, that she could think through it. There were other people that could certainly fulfill the role. So it was Kate's call to do it. And even when she was doing it, it was entirely her decision whether she wanted to continue. And so I made it very, very clear. There was no pressure, no overriding assumption that was not being communicated. So this is why I think the shift and transition from grind culture to taking care of one's health is, there's so many layers. People are very fast to come up with excuses and reasons why they don't want to do it. And I think by Kate doing this, it was a transparent reveal of everything she had stacked up that was stopping her from doing that. And I thought it'd be interesting because she understood the intricacies of the endeavor so thoroughly, and she also was aware of how we were communicating to this. And she had this vantage point that was really unique. So I thought she'd be a perfect candidate to do it. But again, no obligation, entirely her call if she thought this would be a good move for her.
Kate, blink once if you're being held hostage.
Yeah, exactly right.
Do you want to die?
I want to have the opportunity to live.
You want to have the opportunity to live. That's very intentional because he said he doesn't want to die.
Yeah.
You might have seen it on the shirt.
Yeah.
What's the nuance there?
I don't mind the idea of death. If it happens, it happens. But I would love to be able to spend each minute living as much as possible. And so that's what this is for me.
I think I'm on the same page with you.
Yeah.
I'm not scared of dying. I don't think you're scared of dying, are you, Bryan? You're not scared of dying. But would I like the opportunity to live on? I would like the opportunity to live on. But I do also think that what makes life enjoyable is the scarcity. The fact that me sitting here now is me choosing not to do everything else is why this is so special.
Yep. Totally agree.
So
also, I find this idea of the fear of death and people kind of balking at that. It's interesting to me because I think if anything is more rational to fear, I would say it's death. Out of all the fears I could have in life, fear of death is probably one that I would choose to have. That makes sense to me. I'd love to really want to live every single second of the day.
Yeah, same. How do you think about what we just said? That the fact that we are going to die creates the specialness in the life that we have.
I don't think we know what we're talking about.
Okay, fair enough.
I
do understand what you're saying.
I think I lose everybody. Like, Kate is a much more relatable person. Like, she says things that people are like, that's sensible, and I understand that. And I say something, people are like, that's really weird. I'm not quite sure what to do with that. But I really, and so I really am trying very hard to be more understandable, to be more relatable, and have these viewpoints. But I can't seem to land this idea that it's possible we are so primitive in our current way of being that we wouldn't even dare ask ourselves our own opinions about anything.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.